limelight to give directions to IBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati on his role as the presidential returning officer in the 26th October repeat poll. The Electoral Commission chief is expected before the Apex Court after he files an application seeking court's guidance on whether he should correct errors in the hotly disputed Form 34As and Form 34Bs and whether he should use either of those forms to declare the presidential results. And National Super Alliance, on the other hand, has decided to call off all the anti-IBC protests scheduled for Tuesday, that's today, October the 17th, 2017. This is a temporary step to enable the coalition to attend to the supporters who were brutalized and hurt and families that lost loved ones today after police and state-protected goons descended on protesters and NASA leaders. The protests will resume on Wednesday, that's tomorrow, and we are also going to be keeping tabs on exactly what the state of affairs is as far as the anti-IBC demos from NASA. The coalition directs all its supporters to stay off the streets today and resume tomorrow. The High Court will today also give a ruling on a petition by Nyeri Town Member of Parliament Gunjiri Wambogo seeking a determination on demonstration zones. He wants the court to grant Interior Security CS Fred Matiang'i powers to prescribe demonstration zones and have the National Super Alliance bear the cost for destruction of property. If the orders are granted, demonstrators would have to seek the consent of businesses and individuals adjacent to the demonstration zones before picketing. On the other hand, NASA has moved to court to protest acting CS Fred Matiang'i's directive against street demos. We're also following the campaign trail. The NASA brigade will be in Meru today, while Jubilee will be in Kisii, Kuria, and Kericho. Good morning and welcome to Citizen Extra. I'm Lillian Muli. Our reporters on the ground this morning, Stephen Letor in Meru, as Raila is out to win Meru votes. We're also going to be talking to John Wanyama, who is in Eldoret or Singishu County, and we'll also be talking to Martin Munene, who is in Nyeri County. We're starting with Stephen Letor, who is in Meru. Stephen Letor, please bring us up to speed on what we're expecting from the NASA brigade in Meru today as they campaign there for the better part of today. Bring us up to speed.
Well, very good morning to Lillian Muli in studio. Indeed, we are at the heart of Meru County, where it is perceived to be a Jubilee Party stronghold, hosting about over 750,000 registered voters, and these being the Jubilee Party bedrock and by extension the President's bedrock. Then today the National Super Alliance principals led by Raila Odinga, who was their presidential candidate, are touring this particular county, and they have planned a series of some engagements here in the county before then having their final rally at the Lare Stadium, where they are expected to address their supporters there from different parts, of course, converging into that particular town. But it is the tour of Meru today that is being viewed as one of the daring steps by the National Super Alliance to come and sell their agenda to the Meru electorate that they are not ready to participate in the October 26th repeat poll, since the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has failed to meet what they had earlier termed as their irreducible minimums. Remember on Sunday, while the NASA team led by Raila were in Mamangina Drive in Mombasa, they tactfully launched a campaign dubbed Boycott the Repeat Polls for the 26th of October, saying that their supporters will not be engaged on another exercise that will only act to legitimize the presidency of President Uhuru Kenyatta, and that particular re-election drive meant for that day has not been prepared well enough, and that the IEBC has not implemented the Supreme Court ruling issued by the President of the Supreme Court, David Maraga. According to NASA, they had issued several demands, including the issues of Al Ghurair, where they say that Al Ghurair must not go ahead to print the ballots for this repeat election, since it was biased and it colluded with the IEBC and the government to ensure that extra ballot papers were printed to the disadvantage of the National Super Alliance. The issues of Otimofo based in France, where they provided the ICT infrastructure, NASA opposed to that. The issues of all the returning officers for the counties, NASA had said that they want a total overhaul of all the constituency returning officers and a new set of returning officers deployed to the 290 constituencies through open balloting, meaning that it would be nobody will know where they were going to be posted. But of course, you know, again, the elephant in the room as at now in the National Super Alliance, Lillian, is the issue of the name of Raila Odinga appearing on the ballot paper. NASA had written to the IEBC saying that they have vacated their candidate Raila Odinga from that repeat race, and that IEBC has insisted that Raila Odinga has not signed Form 24A to formally withdraw from the race. And as far as IEBC is concerned, Al Ghurair, based in Dubai, is going ahead to print a ballot paper that consists the name of Raila Odinga and other candidates that they had gazetted. And so that, of course, is another battlefront, Lillian. And of course, the other issues that them demanding that, you know, that name be deleted from the ballot paper. Of course, Lillian, this region, Raila Odinga got a slightly a good chunk number of votes, and it is that particular electorate that he regards as his supporters that he wants to come and give a clear explanation why they shouldn't just think that Raila Odinga has let them down, but the National Super Alliance has all the reasons not to subject the electorate of Meru, who are their supporters, to go to the ballot. But of course, you know what NASA is planning already. They have hinted that they will be having the mother of all demonstrations on the 26th of October, that is on election day. Those are the issues we are following. But of course, any surprise can be met here in Meru should now the National Super Alliance call off the entire strike, since they are not going to participate in the October repeatals. And so, Lillian, we are keeping an eye for you. Every single steps that the NASA team will be making, all their traverses across the Meru County, we will be with them and will be able to brief our viewers as and when everything unfolds from this particular part of the country. Lillian.
And to you, Stephen, before I let you go, NASA has decided to call off their protest, their anti-IBC protest. At least that's for today. What's happening in Meru County? Have NASA supporters there heeded to this call?
Well, Lillian, remember in this particular region of the eastern and south, some parts of Mount Kenya, only Embu, it is only Embu County that had managed to, you know, stage some sort of demonstrations in line with the National Super Alliance calls. But as at now, we are still waiting to see whether NASA will go ahead and call off all the strikes that had been scheduled for every day from Monday to Friday. What we know, they have given a reason that today they are cancelling those demos because, you know, they are going to visit those who are brutalized and are hospitalized, and as well those who had lost their lives, especially in Kisumu. But we want to hear from them. There has been issues to do, or calls to do with the issues of dialogue, a national dialogue, but they have insisted that they do not want that dialogue, since their opponents on the other side say that that dialogue is only meant to bring up a coalition government or a sharing of power. And so we are expecting, of course, to hear anything from Raila this afternoon. Remember, he will be accompanied by Kalonzo Musyoka, who had gone out of the country also in Germany, and also is back. And so those are what we are expecting to hear from them, Lillian.
Thanks for that. That's Stephen Leto, who is in Meru County. He's expecting the NASA brigade to make its way there, where they will be campaigning for the better part of the day. Stephen Leto staying with that developing story. Back here in Nairobi County, police yesterday raided 3 residences of Jimmy Wanjigi, businessman Jimmy Wanjigi, where in one of the residences believed to be him, they say they seized AK-47 rifles and ammunition. Hassan Mugambi is in Muthaiga here in Nairobi County. I believe the surroundings of one of the residences of the businessman. Hassan Mugambi, what do you have from your end?
Well, thank you very much, Lillian. We are in Muthaiga area of Nairobi, where this is the residence of Jimmy Wanjigi, who has been suspected of having, arms in his residence in Malindi. Or rather, there was a search that was conducted in one of the residences linked to him in Malindi, Kilifi County, and 5 AK-47s assault rifles were seized. And police had reason to believe that they could find incriminating evidence in his Nairobi residence, hence the seizure, or rather the forceful entry into that particular residence. We have just seen officers here making their way in with a sledgehammer, possibly to make a forceful entry in that particular home. But then again, we have been told to come out here where we're being restrained from entry. You can see some officers drawn from a different contingent of the National Police Service, just ensuring that we are not going to be getting into that particular compound there to get to see what it is exactly that is happening. But then again, what we know is that we have seen officers moving in. I have also spotted an officer in plain clothes, presumably drawn from the flying squad, with a tear gas canister tucked in his waist, which means that they are going to use that gas, if possible, to get to smoke him out, if at all he was inside there, because they have reason, sources privy to the contingent of officers conducting this particular search in his house, have reason to believe that he is holed up inside there, though the family and the lawyers have spoken otherwise here in Muthaiga. We are waiting to see how that pans out, and whether indeed they will be speaking to us on their findings in as far as the operation that they're conducting in that particular residence is concerned.
Thanks for that. That's Hassan Mugambi staying with that story. As you are well aware from our reports last night, police raided 3 residences that belong to Jimmy Wanjigi, where in one of those residences they seized AK-47 rifles and ammunition. It is alleged that one of the homes where these rifles and indeed ammunition was seized is, or rather belongs to the businessman. We're staying with that story. Let's cross over to Nyeri County, take a look at the state of affairs there. 8 days to the October 26th polls. Martin Monena is our man on the ground.
A very good morning to you, Lillian, and like you said, you're getting us live from Nyeri County. I am standing at Kamkunji, where a lot of small business traders are actually transact the business, and we're trying to understand what is their take on the upcoming election, and also the effect of that repeat election on their lives, and especially the business. And we're going to be talking maybe to 1 or 2 of them and understand how they feel about the whole electioneering period. Kindly, Emily, if you can follow me, let us just hear what maybe just a few of them what they'll say. So kindly, habari yako. So kindly, nataka utueleze unaitwa nani, na pia utueleze maoni yako kwa mambo haya ya kujitayarisha kwa uchaguzi. Unahisi ni kama Kenya iko tayari kwenda kwa uchaguzi, na pia utueleze imekuwa ikikuadhiri vipi kama Mkenya, na tafadhali uangalia pale ukiongea.
Okay, Simon, kwa majina yangu naitwa Simon Jenga. Mimi ni mkazi wa Nyeri. Ni tukiangalia sasa kwa kazi imetupeleka chini sana, hakuna kazi, makastoma vile wafanye ni biashara. Kwa uchaguzi si tuko tayari kwa uchaguzi. Yeah. Okay.
There one trader, and let us maybe just cross over to this other side and also find if we can get another person maybe to tell us what they feel. Kindly, you tell us unaitwa nani, utueleze unaitwa nani, and or maybe tell us, do you think that the country is ready to go for the election on 26th, and also tell us how is the election period affecting you. Tafadhali uangalie pale, nitakushikia mic.
Okay, sawa. Kuhusiana na uchaguzi hii tunaendelea, hii mambo imetuaffect sana, na sana kwa biashara. Sasa kazi tumefunga, watu wanasema kazi iko chini. Mimi ningeuliza Kenya, wana Kenya, tutokee kwa hiki na ili tumalize hii mambo, sababu tukiendelea hivyo itakuwa ni shida. Mimi ningeambia hata wale wengine, sababu tunaenda house to house, wajaribu kujitokeza na watokee kwa hiki, na ndio ili tumalize hii kazi tarehe 26, tumalize na mambo ya uchaguzi. Sababu hata sisi hatuna uhuru, hata sisi hatufurahi sababu ya kazi. Kulingana na watoto, hata mashule saa kazi wameanza kufunga, na ni kwa sababu ya kutokuwa na amani.
labda mtu wa mwisho tusikie, maybe kindly tell us your name and tell us, do you think the country is ready to go to elections on 26th, and how is the whole situation of election affecting your life? Kindly, I'll hold the mic for you and look at the camera, please.
Hello Kenyan, naitwa Karo. Okay, wacha niseme venye Kenya yuko si poa, kuza hata saa hii tunazurura, tunatafuta job huku na kule, hakuna job kuza hakuna customers. Sasa wacha niulize Kenyans, kama nguo zenye tumeweka hakuna customers, kuza kitu ya kwanza hakuna customer atakuja, mtu anatafuta Kenya anatafuta akiweka ili vita ikitokea siku moja apate kitu ya kutoroka nayo. Hakuna customers kabisa. Hata saa hii nimesunguka, nimetafuta kazi sipati. Nani atanipea kazi na sababu hakuna wateja? Naenda ananiambia nitakupea kazi nikulipe na nini, after the end of the day nitakulipa na nini? Hakuna watu wanakuja. Si unaona? Saa hivyo ndivyo naweza sema, at least waharakishe hizo vita ziishe. Azinisifurahi kabisa. Hata nauliza nitalipa nyumba na nini nikiwa student, tunaenda kufunga shule, hatuna kitu ya kufanya. Unajua hata sisi tunapenda tukifunga tukuwe na kitu ya kufanya, tukuwe na mtu wa kutuita pahali tufanye kitu. Saa hii hakuna. Thanks.
Alright, those are some of the sentiments of residents of Nyeri. They are feeling that, one, they are ready for elections and the country should move ahead and conduct the election, but they are also saying that their businesses are suffering, their lives are being affected negatively by the continued electioneering period, and that is how things are. I take it back to you in studio. Lilian, from Nyeri County, I am Martin Munene.
Martin Munene in Nyeri County. Residents there concerned about the state of the economy. As we speak, it's only 8 days to the polls, and they say a lot of their businesses have taken a beating. Let's cross over to Wanjigi County. In Eldoret is John Wanyama, who will also be updating us on the state of affairs there. Remember, it's 8 days to the October 26th repeat poll. Let's get a feel on the ground in Eldoret.
A very good morning indeed, Lilian, here in Wanjigi County, specifically Eldoret town. And here where I am, Lilian, as Munene has said, also in Wanjigi County and the entire North Rift, we are also suffering. The economy is also suffering and is suffocating each and every day. You remember, Wanjigi or Eldoret town, it cannot stand on its own. So we depend on neighboring counties also, like transport sector. The matatus, they go in each and every town for transporting people from Eldoret. Like here, North Rift, maybe ferrying people to Nairobi, especially during those days of demonstration in Nairobi. You will really feel and see the vehicles parked and not really willing to take that route to Nairobi or Kisumu. And also we supply milk to neighboring counties, but now, as the situation stands, now farmers and other business people, they are really suffering big time. Lilian, with me, I have four leaders here. I have Madira MP, Peter Weru, and Bureti MP, Leonard Sang, and Bomet East, Bernard Bet. If we can just listen to them, what do they have to say about this? And of course, former senator here in Wanjigi to tell us what is their feel about this repeat election and whether we are heading on the good or worst direction. Senator, if I start with you, where are we heading to? Are we having this election?
Thank you so much. Without saying first whether the elections will be there or not, I think every Kenyan is feeling the pinch of this prolonged campaign period. Not Jubilee or NASA follower is actually happy of what is going on. I think we should have an end to this thing. It is hurting the economy. There are demonstrations everywhere. People are losing property. People are losing lives. And I think this time that Kenyans sit down and agree. And I want to make a very humble request to Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga has now said that he is going to visit all the NASA strongholds and instruct his followers not to turn out and vote on 26th. But basically, before even that, Wanyama, what I want to say or ask Raila is this. I think every Kenyan has a right, constitutionally, to go and vote. That is the democratic right of every Kenyan. Every Kenyan has a right to vote. So it is not a person to decide. It is in the constitution. Number two, Raila has said he is not going to participate in the elections. Though he has not signed the requisite forms, he has said that and it is in public domain. What I want to ask Raila, if he is not going to participate in the election, why demonstrations? you are demonstrating for what? And you are not going to be the participant, you are not the candidate. The other issue is, I think the sole mandate of organizing for election is solely in the hands of IBC. And this is an independent commission. IBC is prepared and everything is on course. What I want to ask Raila is, he says that the elections will not happen. It is not the mandate of Raila to organize election in this country. It rests solely in the hands of IBC. IBC are prepared. I think Raila should just accept. If it is true that he has withdrawn, let him sign the requisite form. Stay as a citizen like us. Even me, I'm not contesting. I'm not contesting for the presidency. Not all of us would want to contest for presidency. If you are willing, you go. If you are not, then you have your time. But I think Wanyama, what we are experiencing now, whether you are Jubilee or code follow, what this country is experiencing is not good. You've had people have died. NASA is insisting on the demonstration as the only way or now they will get their right. But you see, what we are forgetting to know, if we take this country that far, how many years will it take us to bring this country again into its form? It is going to take time. Whether Uhuru will be the president or Raila, they will have to invest much time and energy again to bring this country into order. And because now the IPC is prepared, I want to make a very humble request to Raila Odinga. As he organizes the demonstration, yes, it is guaranteed in the constitution, but the same constitution again guarantees every Kenyan to go and vote. Raila cannot say today in the strongholds of NASA, he will not allow people to vote. That is not leadership. Okay. If he is a true leader, let him give people a chance to go and vote and elect the leaders they want.
Thank you. Mheshimiwa, if you can come closer here. Mheshimiwa, there are these allegations that police are using excessive force in a NASA stronghold. What is your take on that?
My name is Peter Weru, former member of parliament for Madina. And what we are experiencing and what we are seeing is a situation whereby we have a group of people led by one, Raila Odinga, who do not want to uphold the rule of law. And as before we even go to the police response to this, what we would wish to ask is, why are we using the law selectively where it fits us? Raila agreed that the nullification of the elections was right. He also agreed that there is going to be a repeat poll. To that extent, there was no room given that from there the room for seeking redress through court has been closed. So at no point should Raila become now, he is the player, he wants to be the referee, and at now not giving the law to take its course. We should act and do things within the precincts of the law. What we are calling now the demonstrations, in fact, I think they are far beyond what was envisaged by the right provided for in the Constitution for demonstrations, picketing, and expressing of our dissatisfaction with any issue. Why is this? There is nowhere provided for in law that within your demonstration you can cause destruction of property. There is nowhere provided for in law that you are going to disrupt the other rights of the other Kenyans who are not participating in that demonstration. And what we are seeing is NASA. For example, today we are headed to Nyamira County for the presidential campaigns. Some of the routes have been closed by NASA demonstrators. It is our right to use that road. Why has it been closed? If it was, they would be by the roadside, picketing, demonstrating, then we would call those peaceful demonstrations. So, in response to what now we are seeing as the unlawful and illegal demonstrations by NASA, which are actually infringing on the rights of other Kenyans, is now where now the police come in. And what actually happens is there becomes now, it's like an exchange between the public and the police. And then now when the unfortunate incidents like what happened comes, we want to go back to the police. They also have a right. We have seen police also lose their lives in their course of duty. We need to be very sensitive to all of them and move forward. Thank you.
Lilian, let me talk to my last former MP here, if you can talk to us. Maybe, Mheshimiwa, where are we heading as a nation?
My name is Honorable Leonard Sang, former member of parliament for Bureti and in the presidential campaign team. I want to say as a nation, the uncertainties that we are seeing, it is very unfortunate. These are our special requests, that the NASA team realize that we have a country to build, we have an economy to build, we have our children to protect the schools, and everybody else voters need at least services from the government. So it is high time that the NASA side actually somehow organize themselves, come for the election, so that at least we can move the country forward.
Thank you, Lilian. It will be very, this MP here, the former MP is also looking at me. If I can just take 5 seconds, Mheshimiwa. Are you being also hurt in your region where you are coming from by this demonstration and the current situation in the country now?
The current turn of events in Kenya is being felt everywhere. We want to say that though we need to have leadership in place elected by the people, we have economy to take care of. We have the country, we need to take care of this country. I want to say Raila has never been patriotic. He is here to disturb the whole country, and our prayers is that we see to it that we don't entertain such kind of things. And I want to say that this constitution we have serious problems. A constitution with the democracy from page 1 to the last page is not a good constitution. So we need to look at these documents once again, so that we have this country moving in the right direction.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lilian. I know I have really taken a longer time than you expected, and as you've had leaders, they have their own different opinions. And the truth of the matter, Lilian, is that residents, especially also here in Uasin Gishu, have taken an initiative of going back to the constitution. You will see people reading this constitution on their phones, and people just trying to educate themselves and understand what really this constitution means. But the funny part of it is that the more they read, the more they get even more confused, and most people feel like even our lawyers, wherever they are also even confusing residents much more. And each and every Kenyan is trying to see whether this constitution really it is good or bad. But all in all, Lilian, we are still waiting to see how the turn of events will be in this nation. Lilian.
Thanks for that. That's John Wanyama getting reactions there in Eldoret from a cross-section of leaders as we approach the October 26th poll. Remember, it's only 8 days to go today. We expect Jubilee to be on the campaign trail as well as NASA. We will be talking to our reporters on the ground to get updates on that. We will also be talking to Laura Achieng, who is in Kisumu County. That's our reporter in Kisumu County. National Super Alliance has decided to call off the anti-IBC protests for today. This is a temporary step to enable the coalition to attend to the supporters who were brutalized and hurt, and families that lost their loved ones yesterday after police and persons that are believed to be state-protected goons descended on protesters and NASA leaders. That story coming up from Laura Achieng. Will be getting reactions from Kisumu County. Have NASA supporters there heeded to the call from their leadership to stay away from the streets. We'll be getting an update on that very shortly. With me in studio this morning is Joy Mdivo. She's a lawyer and political analyst. We're also joined by Mithika Linturi, who is Senator Meru County. Also with us this morning, Dan Manzo. He's a lawyer and member of Parliament, Makueni County. And we're also joined by Steve Ogola, who is a lawyer and a political analyst. Thank you very much, gentlemen and lady, for joining us. Let's begin with the fact that NASA has called off its protests for today. Their push for the reforms at the IBC have left dozens injured. Among them, some have suffered bullet wounds. There have also been reports of some deaths. Let's begin with you, Steve Ogola, on the right to picket and the conflict that lies therein when we see destruction of property and we see persons getting injured and indeed deaths as well. NASA now calling for a reprieve, calling for temporary halt to these protests, but then still intending to proceed with their mass protests from tomorrow.
Calling off the demos is pragmatic wisdom, and I think it's a welcome move. But that does not validate the ban on those demos. Instead, the Constitution requires, in fact, if you check Article 24, sub-Article 3, Lilian, there is a specific requirement there that if you want to limit the enjoyment of a right in a manner that affects significantly, IBC is in town, You can't tell demonstrators don't get to town. If you must do that, you must demonstrate the reasons in a court of law. Now, the National Police did not do that. Now, the manner in which to respond to an illegality, because that ban stays illegal, because the police did not require a judicial authority or authorization to limit demos in that significant manner. To tell people to go and demonstrate in Kajiado is to limit that right in a manner that cannot be enjoyed in a manner that is intended. But it doesn't mean that NASA, and I said this, NASA should not confront an illegality with another illegality. What they ought to have done, it was open to them to say, we think that this ban is illegal and unlawful and we don't recognize it. The way to show that you don't recognize that particular ban is to move to court, as they have done now, to challenge that ban and ask that the court issues a directive to the police, prohibiting the police from banning demos in the CBD until such a time that they demonstrate to the court that they have significant challenges managing the crowds within the CBD. That is not to validate destruction of property. I think, and I hope that Mheshimiwa Manza is here will be able to provide clarity. What we have seen, the build-up to this demos, Lillian, you don't look, what politicians have said, the rhetoric, they say we are going to these demos, we are going to, sort of like you're going to evict IBC. So when people leave their homes, they leave their homes already psyched up, knowing that this is not a peaceful march. They don't think that they should carry handkerchiefs or wear ribbons. They know. So when the people descend on the street, so we must also blame the political leadership, the tone they set during their rallies, that when the people listen to, when they retreat home, when they leave their homes the next morning, going to the CBD, they know that they're going for anything other than a peaceful demonstration.
So do you want to provide clarity on that issue? Steve Ogola here is saying there's really no clarity as regards the end in sight, what it is that these protesters are intended to achieve at the end of the day, what their code of conduct should be while out there picketing, because the Constitution, yes, does recognize the right by Mwananchi to picket. But then again, from Steve Ogola, you need to give clarity on this matter now that we're seeing a lot of deaths and a lot of injuries.
First and foremost, if the demonstrations were not interfered with by any organized team to disrupt them, or even the police, and the use of excessive force, demos would have gone on very well. And I remember very well in the days of the President Kibaki, demos used to go on, and the people will not get injuries, and the orders will be different, and demonstrators will send their message. The idea here is to send a message. It's a constitutional right, but at all material times the police have disrupted them, even when they are peaceful. At times when somebody is carrying a stick or a stone, does not mean necessarily they are going to use it, just a way of expression. So if the police does not ban the demos, does not interfere with them, and does not injure anybody, like I saw one of the demonstrators was knocked by a vehicle which was known, the owner is known, no action has been taken against that owner, and that particular person is one of the people to be visited today in hospital, has been since hospitalized with serious
as you say, if police had not interfered, we would not see injuries. Shouldn't the right to demonstrate be conditional on the demonstrators doing so peacefully?
All demonstrators are ordinarily peaceful till and when the police interfere with it. If police don't interfere with the demonstration, that already means it's a ban. The fact that they want to stop, or the fact that people cannot express themselves. I just want to challenge them. Tomorrow, they should not interfere with the demos, and you will not see a single incident of injury or anything. So for the people who have been injured or people who have been hurt, in fact, the Attorney General or the government and the Inspector General should be taken to court to be able to pay their respective damages of those particular people, because they were participating in a lawful activity, and there are processes of dispersing a crowd. You must make something called a proclamation and give sufficient time for people to know that now the demo has been stopped. The moment you don't do that, then I can assure you, you don't correct one wrong with another. The police are wrong on this particular one, and I can assure you have to file several suits to recover, damages for property, and for the people who have been killed, I can assure you the government of Kenya will pay.
Senator Linturi, what are your thoughts on this? There are those who feel that Dr. Matiang'i's order was not in sync with the Constitution, and that this has indeed heightened tension.
Lillian, let me share my thoughts about what I think and what probably could be the correct position in law. And one thing politicians are known for is abuse of that title, abuse of the positions that are given of leadership in trying to use them for the purposes in which they are not intended. I feel that politicians in this country are so dishonest to the extent that when I listen to my friend Manso, I really can see him really misleading the whole country without blinking. And where I see this, and with a lot of due respect, is that he's trying to insinuate that that the protesters are normally peaceful. And I would really want to ask him what he thinks of the intention of a protester who moves to the streets carrying a stone or carrying fire. If I have just looked at today's paper and there is a protester carried on a motor, on a bonda, and what he's carrying is fire. I would wonder what a peaceful demonstrator would be doing, carrying fire, and as he moves in the streets, whether in Nairobi or wherever it is. But this notion that the right to picket or demonstrate is absolute, I completely disagree with those people that share that view, because all rights can be limited, and you look at Article 27 of the Constitution of Kenya, is that a right can be limited by law. And I would also want to say that even this right, whatever rights are provided for in the Constitution, you will find that you are not supposed to exercise your rights in a manner that you infringe on other people's rights. So it is a serious balancing act that must really take place. And there is also the creation of a narrative that the police are using excessive force, the police are killing people unnecessarily. I don't agree. Let's first of all understand and agree that the policemen in this country are sons and daughters of men and women in this country.
It's a catch-22, Mheshimiwa Manzo, as Senator.
Let me finish, please. Let me explain, please. Give me a minute.
Yeah.
These police officers, by virtue of their nature of their work, does not mean they are lesser beings. So when they have a duty to protect the country, and one gets or approaches the police with a lot of force, with fire, with the stones, you expect the police to use reasonable force to manage such crisis. And I want to invite our man, my friend Manzo, because there is one common law doctrine called the doctrine of violenti non fit injuria. This is a Latin word that says whenever or where a person willingly places himself into a state of where there is likelihood of harm, and in the event that particular person is armed, then you cannot claim any damage for such an happening. Because when you are facing the police carrying stones and you expect a police officer is carrying a gun, in my mind, that should tell you, in the event that you misbehave and do not adhere to the orders given to the police, then the resultant effect of a confrontation will be fire.
Before I cross over to Joy, thanks for that, Senator Linturi. It's a catch-22, Mheshimiwa Manzo. Yes. What do you expect the police to do when protesters are actually armed? And this is why I posed the question on the modus operandi from your supporters, and indeed how they should carry out these protests. What are the police expected to do when their mandate is to protect innocent civilians out there and their businesses?
Ordinarily, the demonstrators are peaceful. Ordinarily, they're organized in such a manner that any intruders or any criminals, really I don't support any criminal activity during demonstrations. And ordinarily, any criminals who come by are not even usually part of the NASA team. So we have now organized young people to make sure that there are no intruders and that nothing goes wrong. But use of excessive force, use of ammunition, really, you can only use a gun for a gun. The use of live ammunition, honestly, know very well is intended to cause death, and is likely to do so. At the moment the security officer is firing, knows that tear gas is even sufficient to disperse crowds. You can manage crowds without necessarily killing them. So I believe the use of live ammunition is illegal in itself, and a proper suit can lie, and the police will pay for such damage. Look at the example of the university to students. There were very many innocent students who are in classrooms, who are in lecture halls, who are undertaking exams. They were beaten up, honestly. If people are not armed,
but right now we're talking about the mass action. Right now we're talking about the mass action.
It's the same behavior. Even on, there's no mass action. These are just peaceful demonstrations which are meant to be nasty by the police, particularly.
Yes, I would want Manso and the NASA team to parade their women, their children, to lead these demonstrations. That is when we really understand that they are serious in ensuring a peaceful demonstration is taking place. Because whenever the kind of people you see streets, these are hooligans, these are thieves, these are people that are paid and whose livelihood depends on handouts from politicians, and they are paid to do that. So it is dishonest for anyone that is in the leadership team to cheat the country that these demonstrations are peaceful. These are painful demonstrations, and that is why you will find that in civilized democracies and countries, demonstrations are done by people in ties, people that know why they are demonstrating, and people that are going to express their dissatisfaction with whatever issue, knowing that the judicial mechanisms or the legal systems in that country are able to address those issues. But here in Kenya, what we find now is another team that wants to drive on anarchy, disobedience, and cause disharmony in this country with a view to overthrowing the government of Kenya. And I am saying this without any view of doubt. Look, the kind of leaders we have in Gaza are all revolutionary minds. And we cannot really run away from a fact. You are being recruited now, Mr. Manso. You remember, we've been in the streets for some time, and we are able to read these things. But kindly, please, let us address our problems through the legal means provided by the Constitution. We cannot suspend a Constitution. The grand norm in this country is the Constitution of Kenya, and the systems are in place that can address our problems. Anything outside addressing our Kenyan problems, outside what is provided for, in my view, is unacceptable.
Joy Mdivo, let's talk about the Kenya Police Service, which since changed its name from a force to a service. Whether or not it has endeared itself to the public, the minute that protesters see or rioting students see police, this love-hate relationship is sparked off once again, and therefore to the Kenya Police Service indeed, and whether or not they truly are rightfully controlling these protests. There's been claims of use of excess force, there's been claims of use of live ammunition, as Mheshimiwa Manzo here is claiming. To you, the Kenya Police Service, what can be done to endear these persons to the public so that we don't get such a reaction? Because there are those who believe that these reactions are retaliatory, that the minute you see tear gas canisters, the minute you see anti-riot police, then this is likely to be expected.
You know, one of the problems the Kenya Police has is we're in a new constitutional dispensation. But for the public and for the police as well, we still have the old mindset. So for example, when you listen to leaders saying that the protesters are going out and we expect the police to maintain law and order, how do they expect the police to maintain law and order? You're one policeman, two policemen down the street, there's a mob of 200 coming towards you. You see one of them engaging in illegality. Will you as a policeman go and say, oi, move aside, I want this guy, I'm going to arrest him? No. You'll stand your ground and you'll do something. Because that's how they have been socialized, trained to do it, with the sort of numbers that we have, the number of personnel, so that you find the policemen in Catch-22, they have a very difficult job. On the other hand, I'm a mother. When I see a mother mourning her child, there's the principle of voluntary non-fit injury. You take yourself to a place where there's likely to be harm. If you come to harm, that's your problem. But there's some who are children. There's some who don't have the capacity to take themselves into harm, but they're getting caught up in this. Who is responsible then? The parents who went with them to the riot? It's one of those things where, as a police force and as a police service, they actually have to do both roles in one. They have to serve and they have to be forceful. It's part of the responsibility of the leaders. Let me start with CS Matiang'i. The day he said no protest in the CBD. In my opinion, I think he ought to have approached it differently. He should have said, if you want to demonstrate in the CBD, here are the rules. 1, you shall stay on one lane, 2, you shall do it between this and that. He should have issued guidelines on how it can happen, because as Stephen pointed out, the IBC office is in the CBD. So if the protesters want to go to the IBC office, unless they're sending them to the constituency offices, I don't know where else would they take their grievances. So there ought to have been guidelines on how to engage in the CBD if you're protesting. Why am I saying that? We've seen numerous protests that were very, very peaceful. The nurses, the doctors, the teachers, the lawyers with I Am Willie. We have had big demonstrations that did not end up in any chaos and melee. Then on the other side, there's the NASA leaders who are calling for these protests. How are they engaging? And I agree with Steve. When you cite people up to come and agitate for military change, it's a change that is implied to come out by force. Then the leaders also set up the people to come with that oomph, with that side, that they're coming for confrontation. We've seen people holding placards of demonstrations are not sweet without policemen, oh, we need tear gas, we paid for it with our taxes. When people come also with that sense of they're goading the police are also human. So at the end of the day, you find it becomes a Molotov cocktail of all these emotions clashing in one space. But at the end of the day, one thing we must agree, and this is where now I'm going to throw my politician friends under the bus. I don't see this as Jubilee versus NASA. Me, I'm seeing this as the political class versus the masses. They're using the masses to achieve political ends. And it's gotten to a place where the masses, we are paying such a price with the economy, with the loss of the lives of children who have got nothing to do with this, even with the state of the nation, the cohesion, the brotherhood. Their marriages now that are in crisis because they're cross-cultural. It is the problem is when the politicians meet behind parliamentary walls, they're all friends. We'll sit down, we'll have fun, they'll go to each other's kids' birthday parties. But when they come out, they cause the rest of us to be enemies. And I wish Kenyans would see, it is not Jubilee versus NASA. It's ruling class versus the masses. And we should tell them, look, our job is to vote you in. Once we vote you in, you guys go, put on your big boy pants and sort yourselves out. Leave us out of this.
We're taking a very short break. A development on the NASA demos. We will be giving you details on that in the next hour. We understand there's been a development as regards picketing by NASA supporters in central business districts across the country. We're coming back with developments on that very shortly. Stay with Citizen Extra. We're back in